Because you are a chosen race. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you will proclaim the wonderful things of him who called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Set apart and set aside and do his work and bring him glory. Come on.
I'm not trying to blend in. I'm trying to stand out. I've been set apart for greatness. It's already planned out.
Yeah, like, do you know, like, are you aware of that changing of that teaching? Because I remember when we speak, it was kind of anyone who didn't join the organization and leave would go to the paradise. But when I was reading a Watchtower, and it stated, because it was kind of stating some of the changes on that teaching. It said, I'm just gonna read it. It says, previously we thought that the judging of people as sheep or goats would take place during the entire period of the last days from 1914 onward. We concluded that those who rejected the kingdom message and who died before the start of the Great Tribulation would die as goats without the hope of a resurrection. So then it changed again. Then it said, then at Armageddon, the climax of the Great Tribulation, the goat-like ones will be cut off forever. It says, how does that understanding affect our view of our ministry? It helps us to see how important our preaching work is until the Great Tribulation begins. People still have time to change their thinking and start walking on the cramped road leading off to life. It says, to be sure, people may now display sheep-like or goat-like disposition. Nevertheless, we should remember that the final judgment of who are sheep and who are goats is during the Great Tribulation. Therefore, we have good reason for continuing to offer as many people as possible the opportunity to listen and respond to the kingdom message. So we're saying until the Great Tribulation begins, people still have time to judge their thinking. But won't the judgment, like from Matthew 25, won't the separation from the sheep and goats happen after the tribulation?
Basically, when you think about it, at Armageddon, there would be no question, wouldn't it be, as to who the sheep and goats at Armageddon, when Jehovah decides, when he now fulfills his prophecy and the destruction of, the wicked? Wouldn't it be at Armageddon?
See, are you saying like during and not wait till after to see who survives?
No, see, those who survive are now those who've already submitted themselves, who already now have qualified in order to do Jehovah's further will. But his further will is now to help other honest-hearted ones come back from the resurrection who never got a chance to learn about Jehovah. So if a person prior to Armageddon has not submitted themselves to God's kingdom in regards to now helping people learn about the truths and helping them to teaching them, you see, giving them the opportunity like you read, then you see they have not submitted themselves and shown that they're the sheep-like ones that are doing the will of God. Because Jesus Christ is the one that said that, right? Yeah,
so if someone rejects it, say if you go to someone's door and they reject it, what is their fate? Would they make it to the paradise, or is it only people that join and then fall back?
You mean before Armageddon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, you remember what Jesus Christ said in Matthew? When he says, he that endures to the end will be what?
He that endures to the end will be saved?
Yeah. So, see, we're talking about carrying the will of God to the very end, not getting all the way up until let's say, the finish line, and then all of a sudden now stretch back. Do you remember what Hebrews said to the Apostle Paul? That Jehovah's, does not take delight in the one that shrinks back. So the person has to be full-fledged in their devotion as to now service to Jehovah or service to Satan. Not to be duped by anything of Satan's system by trying to pull together the world, because the world is lying in the power of the wicked one. So the position we hold right now, You see, that's where they had to make that adjustment in their thinking. Their thinking was not, correct. So they had to make that adjustment based on, the new light and, according to God's word, the Bible. So when it comes to now preaching work, we can't judge anybody, because let's say that the tribulation started, and now it's to the point where now it's really at the doors of Armageddon. Suppose a person prior to that all of a sudden turns around and says, wait a minute, and all of a sudden now their whole disposition has changed, and now they have an opportunity to learn the truth. Now, if you had judged them prior to that, how do you know at the very end that the person would have, I don't mean like the very end, like all of a sudden you're just like credulity, I believe. No, but when a person heartfelt by saying is that, wait a minute, and they're seeing, even right now, how close we are to the end, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden now we see all these people marching, and the governments are just as terrible as wicked as wicked could be. You go to the Belize, you just can't believe what's happening there with religion, with the Muslims, and how, they use money and things of that nature, and, sitting on top like they're, almost like God, so to speak, where they have the will to kill or keep alive, or whatever the case may be. But you look at Satan's world right now and see how deep we are to where Jehovah's Day can happen upon us at any given time. If a person now all of a sudden were judged right now, today, that would be premature. Because now tomorrow, all of a sudden, he's looking at the way the world is right now by saying, wait a minute, I remember hearing something about this particular situation or this particular period when I was about maybe 8 years old. I remember that, and now he's 50 years old. All of a sudden, he's praying to God, look, is there something to this? And all of a sudden now, because remember, Revelation 7 is still being fulfilled right now to this very day. Mm-hmm. Revelation, in fact, could you read that? Revelation 14, 6 and 7. This is being fulfilled even to this very day as the Jehovah draws up the angels and now let loose the 4 winds of destruction, according to Revelation. What did Revelation 14, 6 and 7 say?
The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended.
Is that Revelation 14?
20. Sorry.
That's okay. 14, 6 and 7.
Then I saw another angel flying directly overhead with the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. And he said with a loud voice, fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. And worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water. Yeah. So the angels work. They're still full force. Mm-hmm. And looking for honest-hearted ones who want to learn the truth about the true God. They have everlasting good news, the gospel to tell to people. And that's what we're preaching and teaching. So until Jehovah says, that's it, that's when the judgment period begins at that particular time. See, because at Armageddon, there'd be no left or right. Those who are destroyed will be individuals that will not be allowed into God's new world. See, at Armageddon. Are you aware of the Great Tribulation changes? I'm sorry? Were you aware of the changes according to the Great Tribulation? Yes, definitely. You see, because the Great Tribulation, the thing is that once it starts, now it goes to a point where now, at the beginning and right, almost before the end, that's when the anointed now will be, resurrected to heaven to now be a part of now Christ's kingdom in order to finish. You see, God's prophecy in regards to the destruction of the system of things, as well as, Satan and his demons. So at one point, the anointed will be God. And at that point, the great crowd who are now poised to go into God's new world will be protected during Armageddon. And that's how the organization is used, see, the Great Tribulation in regards to the same thing, almost in connection with how it was in Egypt. You see, remember after the 12th plague, right? Yeah. 12th plague, they were protected. They didn't have to have any sword in their hand. They had to do anything other than have faith
that Jehovah is going to bring them salvation. And he did.
Yeah. Because I was reading, and there's a couple of teachings that switch where they said started, and then it said it paused, and it was going to resume later, and then they went back and switched and said that it didn't start at all. And that was concerning because I was reading, I think this is the Watchtower, I think it's going to come up, and it was kind of explaining why they're getting these prophecies wrong. They said that, because I know we talked about those jumping ahead, but they said in the article, to understand a prophecy correctly, we generally have to consider its context. So if we focus on only one aspect of the prophecy and ignore the rest, we may draw the wrong conclusion. So just like, so if they're not,
I agree.
Yeah, if they're not understanding the context and focusing on the aspect of a prophecy and ignoring the rest, then shouldn't be concerned, like paragraph 16 is saying, when there's not even like I know it kind of went into detail before, after, but it's like, how confident can I be that prophecy about, the friends living, all this can change?
Yeah. Now just think about this, right? Just think about this in relation now to keeping their eye on prophecy. Now, who on this earth, I want you to be honest, who on this earth is giving the zero in on Bible prophecy in regards to God and Satan's world today, and are keeping people abreast, keeping people watchful, other than Jehovah's Witnesses?
You said,
what organization is teaching in a matter worldwide as a unity, one people, keeping people awake and watchful? The only Jehovah's people is read prophecy. Now, at times, it'll get to the point where they'll jump ahead and not have to pull their reins back. But let me give you this illustration. I think I gave it to you a couple months ago. Actually, 3 months ago, I believe it was. Let's say you and your dear family had a group of individuals. Let's say you live on the second tier, and you had a deck all around the house, and there was enemies out there in the woods, and you had all your lawn shaved at least 300 yards, so that there's no woods around your property. And you had men stationed there at different periods of the day to watch out for you and your family, right? And let's say in the evening, 1 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden you hear rustling, boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden you all jump up, and then one of the watchers who saw something rustling about 300 yards away, but it turned out to be a false alarm. Now, he comes back and say, no, it was just a false alarm, but we're still keeping a watch. Now, let me ask you, Ryan, how would you feel about this watchman? Would you just say, all right, that was a false alarm, you get out of here? Oh, but how would you feel about that watchman?
I guess they're concerned he's watching.
Yeah. And the slightest little thing, they're jumpy. Sometimes experience calls for them not to be jumpy, where things will be right on point. I got it right there. And the matter's taken care of. The perspective of the illustration is to help you to appreciate that just like Jehovah had the ancient Israelites as a people, they weren't a perfect people, but Jehovah still was with them based on his promise through Abraham. And now Jesus Christ comes to the unity. Now these people ought to now be followers of him, because he was a follower of his father. True Christians now, he told them to keep on the watch. So as they're keeping on the watch, hey, there'll be a false alarm here or two. It doesn't take away now the responsibility that's given to them. And number two, it doesn't take away less the love that they have for those which they're watching over. So it's not anything of malice, not anything of anything other than keeping on the watch. And you're going to find that as time goes on, right up to the very end. But the key thing is that we're living in deep in the time of the end. So you have a watchman letting people know about that. You have an organization now that the morality is at the standard of Jehovah's. And individuals are now working and cleaning their lives. That's why you have no smokers, no drug addicts. You have no individuals that curse. And if you do, either they're working on it or they are disciplined for it. Mm-hmm. And they sometimes, for the most part, discipline themselves.
Yeah.
You have all of these things, you see, in relation to now leading up to an organization at Christ at this late date. It's not starting over, because the book of Revelation and all these other scriptures in regards to Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel has been sowed into an organization that Jehovah's been using. I tell you, if you went back to the 75-year book and of Jehovah's Witnesses and you read the 3 parts that are in that yearbook in relation to all the persecution that Jehovah's Witnesses been through, through the United States and their government, the mob killings and the hangings and the persecution, you would say, this, you mean United States? And then all the comments that different ones have, like Eleanor Roosevelt, is saying, why are you meddling with these people? These are peaceful people who are helping. They pay their taxes, they're good to their neighbors, and they have such a great witness. But we know that it was Satan's the one that did not want the truth to be told. He did not want the religious false teachings to be exposed. And so he made it difficult. And Christ prophesied that would happen. But they were resilient. And now today we have an organization that now has fulfilled Bible prophecy. And now we're standing poised to go into God's new world. And at times it has adjustments. Hey, you as a parent, you're going to be in that position too. The organization is not infallible because they're not perfect. You as a parent are not infallible. You're going to make mistakes. But your intent is to be a good parent, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same thing with now the responsibilities that those which God is using.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, are there other channels? I know was it Jeffrey Jackson said there was other channels God was using.
No. Please don't believe that, Ryan, because your everlasting life depends on it, my friend. The religious organization, Jesus Christ says, I am no part of the world, and my disciples are no part of this world. So Operation Push, or whatever the case may be, all these organizations that use the political means in which to try to get their will done, or they're fighting and being a part of the world. You see them right there with the presidents. You see them right along with Satan's organization. Jehovah has already cleaned his people out so that you can have trust in that we will not side with this world.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Politically, religiously, or commercially. See? That's why if you read 1 John chapter 2, let's read that together, please. 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15 through 17. If you can read that, please.
Which verse?
1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17.
Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever.
Yes. You see? So you can see the reason why we were thrown in jail and persecuted is we would not fight in the war. We would not, abide by any of the rules to kill our neighbor. But religions did that.
God was with me through it.